The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. Francis Scott Fitzgerald.
Introduction.
The title of this book contains the phrase, changing the paradigm. What does that mean? First, let's define paradigm. In 1962, American historian and philosopher of science Thomas Kuhn, in his work, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, argued that science does not progress through a continuous and sequential accumulation of knowledge. Kuhn asserts that the path of science to truth is never and cannot be straightforward. The evolution of scientific knowledge happens in stages, and at each stage, the scientific community adopts a certain set of concepts and mental models, which is what we call a paradigm. Within the framework of this paradigm, they develop corresponding postulates and standards, propose suitable theories, plan appropriate research methods, and interpret the resulting data accordingly. Now, what does changing paradigm mean? The stage of scientific development described above usually lasts for a certain period, sometimes decades, sometimes centuries, until scientific observations begin to seriously contradict the original set of concepts and mental models that form the foundation of the paradigm. The emergence of such contradictions marks a crisis in this stage and triggers the beginning of the next one, which gives rise to a new paradigm. For example, astronomy long evolved under the geocentric paradigm, meaning it was based on the concept that the Sun and other planets revolve around the Earth. However, the work of Nicholas Copernicus gave birth to a new scientific paradigm, heliocentrism, which asserts that the Earth and other planets revolve around the Sun. It took only a few decades for all of European science to accept this new paradigm, but what tumultuous years those were! How many heated debates raged in European universities? How many scientific authorities were toppled from their pedestals? How many revelations and disappointments were experienced by both esteemed professors and their students? Thomas Kuhn referred to this extremely painful process as a change or shift of the paradigm. So, what is the current paradigm of life, and which set of concepts and mental models does this book challenge? At present, life is regarded as an active form of matter, which implies that there is also a passive form of matter, from which the bulk of the universe consists of. Modern science does not provide a clear explanation of how this passive form turns into an active one. It is simply accepted as an indisputable fact that the emergence of this active form is extremely unlikely, and that the universe is essentially a vast, lifeless, and mysterious. Nobody knows, is that a construction, formation, structure, which is also constantly degrading according to the second law of thermodynamics? Somewhere, in the unremarkable corners of this vast and endlessly dreary graveyard, a few rare, solitary, and defenseless sprouts of life manage to emerge. In this book, I will refer to this concept as
the paradigm of the Great Graveyard.
So what's wrong with this paradigm? In recent years, scientists have been increasingly vocal about the crisis in physics as a science. For example, Bruno Mansoulier, one of the leading figures behind the Atlas experiment at the Large Hadron Collider and the head of the team searching for the Higgs boson, published an entire book titled Physics in Crisis: From Multiverses to Fake News. Mansoulier, along with several other renowned scientists with impressive citation indexes, claims that the widely accepted theories of physics are failing to cope with the growing number of contradictions. Primarily, this concerns the failure of the methodological principle of reductionism, which asserts that complex phenomena must be explainable using the laws governing simpler phenomena. According to physicists, this principle is violated because the so-called standard model of elementary particles, which describes the phenomena of the microworld quite well, is completely incapable of explaining the nature of gravity, i.e., the cosmic world, using the forces and interactions observed at the level of elementary particles. But the problems in physics don't stop there. Enormous hopes were placed on the Large Hadron Collider experiment, which was expected to confirm a fundamental principle of quantum mechanics, supersymmetry. To recap, the idea of supersymmetry suggests that each elementary particle must have a symmetric antipartner, such as the electron-positron or neutrino-antineutrino pairs, and so on. So, while the Large Hadron Collider quickly confirmed the existence of the Higgs boson, the same cannot be said for supersymmetry. By the time this book was written, 8 years of active experiments, research, and exploration had gone by, and strangely enough, not a single positive result to show for it. According to Gianfrancesco Giudice, head of the theory division at CERN, the absence of supersymmetry necessitates a reconsideration of the core principles that have been used for decades to answer fundamental questions about the physical structure of the world. Another unsolvable problem from the standpoint of modern physics is the measurement paradox in quantum mechanics, that strange phenomenon where simply observing an experiment somehow affects its outcome. This leads to a single, spine-chilling conclusion for physicists. It seems that all observations must be considered subjective. A special place in the crowded gallery of theoretical problems in microphysics is occupied by the maddeningly complex string theory. As Bruno Manzulli puts it, it's floating in mid-air. None of its propositions have been backed by experiments so far. In the same league, we have the theory of multiple universes and a whole bouquet of hypothetical elementary particles, unconfirmed by any experiment. Years of research at the Large Hadron Collider haven't found a trace of them. Cosmology faces no fewer challenges. For example, in the very first months of operation, the James Webb Space Telescope discovered ultra-old galaxies, calling into question the entire Big Bang theory, upon which nearly all modern concepts of the structure and properties of the universe are built. In my deep conviction, the acknowledgement of all these, and various other issues, indicates a crisis in the ruling paradigm of the Great Graveyard. In this book, you will be introduced to
The paradigm of the great life,
which offers new approaches capable of providing reasonable answers to many questions, including, of course, those listed above. I hope that over time, the paradigm of the great life will lead, if not to a complete rejection of the paradigm of the Great Graveyard, then at least to a thorough reconsideration of it.
and before concluding the introduction, I'd like to prepare readers for the inevitable challenges they will face while reading this book. The problem is that every paradigm consists of many diverse aspects. It's, by definition, an entire set of concepts and mental models. Within any such set of concepts and models, everything is interconnected and loops back on itself. One statement leads to another, from which a third follows logically, and this third in turn proves the truth of the initial statement. It is impossible to explain all these statements, conclusions, and proofs at once. You have to start somewhere, and at first glance, that starting point will inevitably seem unfounded. It's practically impossible to present a complex, interconnected, and interdependent system of concepts and ideas in a linear fashion. If you will, familiarizing yourself with a new paradigm is akin to watching someone assemble a jigsaw puzzle. You don't know what picture is being assembled before you, and it usually doesn't start to take shape for you until at least 60-70% of the pieces are in place. In the early stages of assembling the puzzle, some strange fragments of the image seem to hang in midair, and for quite a while, it's entirely unclear to you how they might connect. During this time, your boredom and frustration grow, and you may feel the urge to quit this seemingly pointless activity. But to overcome this stage, patience and perseverance will be required. However, by the end of the process, when the puzzle is nearly complete and the picture has emerged clearly, you'll quickly and with satisfaction place the final missing pieces in their proper spots. That said, it's entirely possible that the completed picture, the new paradigm, will seem surprisingly strange and even fantastic. This is an expected reaction, since you, the reader, willingly or unwillingly, are under the hypnotic spell of the prevailing paradigm of the great graveyard. The only thing that can help you break free from this spell and open yourself to new ideas and meanings is your inquisitive mind and healthy imagination.